started timing up now.
Well, I've asked you a question there a minute ago, and I got more questions,
Okay.
but I want to know. You remember when Joshua took over for Moses, right?
Yep. Joshua took over from
And
Moses.
he brought him across the Jordan.
Yep.
Okay. Well, Joshua led them for a long time. Early got all the land split up.
Okay.
Okay. Listen what it says here about Joshua toward the end of his life. It says, and when Joshua had let the people go, the children of Israel went every man unto his inheritance to possess the land. And the people served the Lord all the days of Joshua, and all the days of the elders that outlived Joshua, who had seen all the great works of the Lord that he did in Israel. And Joshua the son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died, being 110 years old. And they buried him in the border of his inheritance in Timnath, Timnath-Heres, however you say that,
Yeah.
Timnath-Heres, in the mount of Ephraim, on the north side of Gaza. And also all that generation were gathered unto their fathers. And there arose another generation after them, which knew not the Lord, nor yet the works which he had done for Israel. And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and served Balaam.
Right.
That's one generation, right? One generation. They went from serving the Lord. It says they served him
Read that.
all his
Yeah.
days.
Read that last verse to me again.
And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord and served Balaam.
Okay.
Um, that's one generation.
One generation. That's what we said.
I asked you a few minutes ago, how come every generation gets further and further away from the Lord? What'd you say?
Said because we don't tell our children.
That's exactly right. I want you to listen what God told Joshua to do. Hold on just a minute.
No problem.
Chapter 4 in Joshua, it starts out and it says, and it came to pass when all the people were clean passed over Jordan, that the Lord spake unto Joshua, saying, take you 12 men out of the people, out of every tribe of man, and command ye them, saying, take you hence out of the midst of the Jordan, or out of Jordan, out of the place where the priest's feet stood,
Yeah.
firm, 12 stones, and ye shall carry them over with you, and leave them in the lodging place where ye shall lodge this night. And it goes on, it tells us that Joshua did that.
Yeah.
Okay. And they stacked them up. It says he stacked them up, and they're standing there to this day when
Stones
this
up
was
for
written.
a memorial.
A memorial.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go. I've
And
skipped a whole bunch here,
yeah.
but
And when your children ask you what in the world that pile of stones for,
that's what he
where
says.
you going?
That's
Yeah.
where I'm going. It
You
says, and those 12 stones which they took out of Jordan did Joshua pitch in Gilgal. And he spake unto the children of Israel, saying, when your children shall ask their fathers in time to come,
Yep.
right, saying, what mean these stones? Then ye shall let your children know, saying, Israel came over this Jordan on dry land. For the Lord your God dried up the waters of Jordan from before you until ye were passed over, as the Lord your God did to the Red Sea, which he dried up from before us until we were gone over.
Yep.
Okay. That all the people of the earth might know the hand of the Lord, that he is mighty, that ye might fear the Lord your God forever. Okay, now he said stack them up.
Yeah.
And he told him over here, so when your children ask you why, you tell them what God did for you. But if you notice something right here, he said, for the Lord your God, in verse 23, he says, for the Lord your God dried up the waters of Jordan from before you.
What chapter is
that? Chapter 4, in Joshua.
Verse 23.
Verse 23. It says, the Lord your God dried up the waters of Jordan from before you until you were passed over.
Yep.
Right? Now listen, as the Lord your God did in the Red Sea. Moses parted the Red Sea. Well, Jesus, God did.
Yeah.
But he had Moses do it.
Yeah.
Which he dried up from before us until we were gone over. We read over a minute ago that when Joshua died, all Israel served the Lord as long
For that one generation.
as he was there.
Yeah.
And all the people that one place says overlived him, one place says outlived him.
Yeah.
All that generation served him. You said a few minutes ago that all it takes is one generation, and we're a complete atheist world.
Yeah.
Not telling the next generation. That's why, and you said that too, that's why we're getting further and further from the Lord. My question is, myself, you too, I tell my kids what this book says.
Okay.
I tell my grandchildren what this book says.
Yeah.
I tell anybody, listen, what God did for these people. Why don't we tell them what he did for us? Make it more personal. Why don't we tell our children or our grandchildren what he did for them?
And like I said before, because we don't know what he's done for us. And I say that, I don't think we recognize God's hand in our day-to-day life.
I think there's times in your life you can recognize it. Things have happened in your life that you can look back and go, if not for God.
Yeah.
Right.
Donald Trump, I heard him on the way over here saying, if not for God, I'd be a dead man. Now, that's something that happened in his life.
Yeah, that's exactly
in his
right.
life. But I don't think that most people obviously know that happened. And I don't want to take it as a political thing. Most people know that happened. But do most people think that was actually the hand of God that did that? Or do most people think it's coincidental?
Boy, he was lucky.
He got lucky. He got lucky.
Good thing that boy won a good shot.
Yeah. And
he was good enough that Trump had a bigger head.
And the scripture says, in Ecclesiastes, that, the race doesn't go to the swift. Everything doesn't always happen to the strongest. The wisest people don't always make the most money. And I'm paraphrasing. But it does say that circumstance and chance does happen to us all, right?
But most people.
Now, do I think it was the hand of God? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if I draw my next breath, it's the hand of God.
I do too. Every heartbeat.
Yeah.
I had enough science, enough what do they call it? Not biology. Well, I guess it'd be biology.
Yeah, you probably took biology one like me. I took biology 1, 2, 3 times.
Medulla oblongata or something they call it, the tail end of your brain.
Okay, that thing down hanging. I thought that was the
epiglottis. Where your spinal cord connects to your brain.
Yeah.
They say that controls all your voluntary or all your involuntary muscles.
Okay.
Keeps you breathing, keeps your heart beating.
Yep. Yep.
Makes you jump back before you tell you. Well, I guess that'd be voluntary. You tell yourself jump back.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
But the involuntary things. Okay. Who told that thing to do that? Who told that part of my brain to tell my heart to keep beating?
Yeah. Who wired it that way?
Yeah.
Originally. I mean, he's told everybody's brain to do it that way. Yeah. So.
But what I was going to say is, in your life, and I'll mention something if you don't want this on there, you can block it out or whatever.
You can say anything you want to.
Years ago, you had a car wreck.
I've had a bunch of them.
Yeah, but years ago, you wrecked an old Cougar that you had.
Okay.
Slid out of the road, going to work.
Okay.
Slid into the ditch.
Yeah.
And the best I remember, you said.
I remember which time I wrecked it.
Yeah.
Don't get on the roads.
It may not have been your fault.
Do not get on the roads around here.
Yeah. Well, if I got Doug here, you're all right.
Yeah, you should be safe. I'm here.
We'll say one of the times that
I slid that Cougar out of the road.
You slid out of the road down in the ditch, and best I remember, you told me it wasn't tore up that bad. You didn't think.
No,
because you just slid into the ditch.
Dropped off in the ditch in the snow.
You get out of the car,
back wheels
right?
Both off, yeah.
And you're going to walk to a telephone and call your wife and tell her to come get you and take you on to work.
Yeah.
Get the car later. That's as I remember it. If I remember right, some lady comes up there and stops.
Slid to a stop. Slid to stop in front of me, and I asked her for a ride.
Yep. Okay. You got your lunchbox and stuff.
Yep.
You getting your lunchbox and stuff. Here comes another car, hits her, hits you.
Yeah.
Then hits your car.
What it did, I was starting to go behind her car because she told me I had to drive. I don't know why. I says, her car's still in the road. She says, Lord, yeah, honey, I'll give you a ride, but Lord, you'll have to drive. I'm scared to death. So I said, okay, grab my lunchbox, jump back up in the road and start around behind her car. And here come a I can't remember now. It was a big old long sedan back in years ago. And I see it coming, and I jumped back, and it hit her in the rear end and crushed my lunchbox. Spun around as I was jumping back and hit me and knocked me about 15, 20 feet up on the bank in the snow.
And
in
then
the
plowed
mud
into
more than
your
anything.
car.
Huh?
And then plowed into your car.
Yeah, come on around and hit and landed on my car, and there was like 6 or 7 of them piled up before we got through that day.
Okay. Are you going to tell me that you can't say God kept you from being 2 steps further?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people would say, well, if God was so great and he was protecting you, why did you wreck in the first place?
Okay.
I watched a movie one time that had a thing in it that I really liked. It said, because you live in a broken world.
Oh, yeah.
God don't hardly recognize this beautiful world that he made.
So,
because he made it perfect and sin made it terrible.
so
But why don't we tell our children about that? Like I just told whoever's listening.
yeah. Okay. So
Why
if
don't
any
we tell
kids
them
are
about me
watching
getting
that,
run over?
remember that's my story.
The one off.
Yeah.
Why don't we tell them about me getting run over by something that should have killed me?
Yeah. Yeah. When the tug run over you. Yeah. But y'all don't know a tug is a big old heavy cast iron tractor machine they use to push large airplanes around. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Run over me from my feet, plumb across my head.
Yeah.
Why? Because I'm stupid. But either way, it did. And why? And I'm going to say this: I wasn't a saved man at the time.
Yeah.
I remember thinking it went across my head, and I remember thinking it's busting my skull because my teeth were busting.
Yeah.
All I could think was this was it.
I'm fixing to meet
I
eternity.
wasn't thinking about them. I said, this is it.
Yeah.
And I remember looking back on it going, boy, that would have been it. It would have been terrible from that moment on.
Hey, even if you survived, you'd have been.
Because nobody had told me enough that it is a point unto man wants to die, and after this, the judgment.
Yeah. Yeah. But you knew that, didn't you?
I had probably heard that somewhere, but not enough.
Well, you was a grown man.
I was a grown man, but I hadn't heard it enough.
So you were a grown man who attended church as a child, attended church growing up as a child, right? So, and I think you've told me before, you never absolutely didn't believe.
No, well, that's a danger I think a lot of people get in. I believed God.
Yeah.
I believe Jesus was real. I believe he died on the cross. I believe he went back to heaven. I believe they said he paid for my sins, but I never gave myself to him.
You never
accepted him
as your personal sacrifice.
Yeah, I never accepted him as my Lord and Savior. And a lot of times we'll say, well, I believe. A lot of people believe. Well, I believe if a moon fell and hit me in the head, it'd probably kill me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I believe that. I've never seen that happen.
Yeah.
Right? I've never experienced that. Okay. To know about somebody, you take people that are starstruck, people that they can tell you, or I'll say starstruck. You take football fans, basketball fans, baseball fans, race car fans, any kind of fan, you golf fans. They've got somebody they like, and they can tell you all about them like they know them.
Yeah.
The difference is that person don't know them, and they don't really know that person.
That's true.
They know a lot about that person, but they've never met that person.
But with God, he already knows more about us.
He knows us, but
we don't really know him.
It kind of gets funny to say. Maybe. We don't know him.
Yeah.
We don't know him.
We don't know him.
We
know about it.
Think of a movie star, a ball player, or somebody.
Yeah, we know about it.
Okay.
Jeff Gordon was I was a Jeff Gordon fan in NASCAR.
Okay, Jeff Gordon. I got crazy stories about that, but anyway, I knew a guy that really wasn't a Jeff Gordon fan.
Yeah.
And he was a big Earnhardt fan. And every Monday he would come in. Did you see that race? I go, man, I missed it. But as long as that Earnhardt was behind Gordon, I didn't care who won. It didn't bother me. But I knew he was a Gordon. He hated Gordon and he loved Earnhardt. Yeah. Oh, he'd get mad every Monday. But anyway, he always asked me.
Yeah.
I think he wanted to do it.
Yeah.
But anyway, you knew a lot about Gordon, maybe, right?
I knew a lot more about him than he did about me.
I was more of a, yeah, exactly. I was more of a drag racing guy. Big Daddy Don Garland. About anybody that's ever messed with drag racing knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I know a lot about him, but I don't know that man.
No, he don't know you at all.
He don't know me at all. Now you brought that up. Christ knows us. God knows us. He knows us better than we know ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. But I don't know Don Garland's.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
might recognize him if I saw him because I don't follow none of that stuff anymore. But I never did really follow it. I just always liked it and liked him. You know, it was just a big name. But
Our parable has a kink in its armor because I've actually seen Jeff Gordon person to person when we work at a racetrack.
Yeah.
We do work over the racetrack.
You've seen him,
And I've seen him.
but you don't.
I've
know
walked right by him. I'm sitting over there because I'm just a lowly worker. I'm not supposed to make a big deal out of seeing him, but I've walked right by him. Right?
Okay.
All them race car drivers. There's Jeff Gordon. I know who that is. He don't know who I am at all. Don't acknowledge my, and not that he's being stuck up or anything. But the difference is, you can know God. You can, like you saying, you can be brought up in a church. You can have walked the aisle. You can have done all those things, and you believe that God exists. I believe that Jeff Gordon exists, right? And when I see him, blah blah. But the difference is, he knows me. It's not a one-way thing. He knows me, and I really don't know him. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does.
I don't
I don't
really know Jeff Gordon.
You just know about him.
I know about God. I know that my mother believed in him.
Yeah, that'd be one way of saying.
And I'm pretty sure that
But now you know him.
But now I know him. Now, do I know him like I ought to? No.
I don't know if we can ever be that way.
Yeah, and for me personally, it's a
The continual growth.
Well, it's a whole lot. You're saved not because you feel like you're saved. You're saved because you know what he did. And I write these things so that you might know. No, so I know, but I'd like to have more personal relationship. Does that make sense? And I think everybody probably should want that more. I tend to be a more analytical kind of guy, but and not a feely touchy kind of guy. You can ask my wife; he ain't a really feely touchy kind of guy. But those feely touchies would help, don't you think?
Yeah.
I think they help cement you. Not that you got to have them. But do you? I mean, you need to know him.
Yeah.
You know him, and you need to trust that he's done it, because it's about faith in the end.
It's about faith. Have you put your faith in him? And we've all heard the old adage, I put my faith in the sheriff and sat down him.
Yeah.
Okay. To know God, God says, if you know me, if you love me, you will keep my commandments. You will do what he says, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the love of God, is to do his commandments. 1 John something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you love him, you'll do his commandments, he says. Okay. Putting your faith in him, God said, if you will keep my commandments, and I don't take this wrong, I'm not saying it's works.
Yeah.
If you believe in me, you will live such and such a way. Right? If I tell you, okay, to get back to your house, the quickest way for you to get there is when you pull out of my driveway to turn to your right and go and blah 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 from there on.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you can say, okay, I believe that.
Yeah.
And you can leave here going, he told me the quickest way to get back to my house. And you get to the end of my driveway and turn left. You ain't doing what I said.
No.
So you're not following me. You're not trusting what I told you. And that's the way people are with Christ until you trust what he tells you. And like I said, everybody wants to, as soon as you say something like this, everybody wants to say, well, you're talking about works. And I'm not. Let me think how to change this into something that we can all relate to. I love my wife. I married my wife. And when I did, I started doing different things. When I was dating my wife, I quit doing things and started doing other things.
Okay.
Because I wanted to spend time with her. And in a sense, maybe I'm stretching. He says we're the bride of Christ. The church is the bride of Christ. Yeah. My wife quit doing certain things. We don't go out with other people, right? You don't date other people. You don't do this. You don't do that. You spend time with each other. Okay. You spend time with him. You want to talk to him. I'm not like a fella I used to work with that said he told his wife he loved her when he married her, and that ought to be good enough. If it changed, he'd tell her.
I don't think I'll be telling them too often.
I think that guy was like that. That's just the way he was. He said, I told her once I loved her. You go, what?
Yeah, go outside and change the tires. Come and tell me why you're leaving me.
Every time my wife leaves, unless I'm asleep and she leaves or something. But if I'm around, if we're talking, when she leaves or when I leave, I say I love you. Yeah. And she leaves, I say I love you. Be careful. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And because I don't want her to forget. Yeah. You know what else I don't want her to forget? I don't want her to forget what God's done for her in their lives. Yeah. How when the times was terrible, when this was happening, that was happening, he's praying for a loved one or whatever, and God came through, and you go, well, that doctor done good. Well, wait a minute, 30 minutes ago he said he's going to die.
And that's what, before we start there, we was talking a little bit, and I was telling about the late revival that we had at a church. It's been 30 years ago probably, but they brought people in. I think they from out in the western part of the state that come in, and it was the group from that area that were just lay people in the church. And what I remember thinking is I was amazed at how much they saw the hand of God in their lives. And they'd say, we were doing this or that, and this happened, and that's the hand of God. Mm-hmm. And we don't see that. And part of the reason we don't see that
is, are you not looking for it?
Well, we're not looking for it, but good things happen to people who aren't saved too. Good things happen to people that aren't saved.
It says it rains on the just and the unjust.
It's still the hand of God.
It's still the hand of God.
And they say, well, they don't just happen to save people that a car crushes the lunchbox and you get knocked on the hill and you don't get killed in what could have been an accident that killed you.
Whether you were saved at that point or not, and I think you were by that point, maybe not.
Yeah, probably was by then. Yeah.
Whether you were or not,
it was close in that
area.
Do
you think God wouldn't want to save you, to give you another chance, to give you another opportunity?
That's the thing is we don't see his hand when we're not saved in our lives, but we don't see his hand when we get saved in our lives.
I think we don't look for it.
Well, yeah.
I think
we don't look for it.
I think if we look for it, and I'll tell you, to get back to where I was here a minute ago, if I look back through my life and every time I go, God did that, I believe that. Me and my wife, not long before we were married, were coming up the road from her parents' house, coming this way, and cruising along my old car, it's running as good as it ever did, and then all of a sudden it just went boom. Yeah. And I'm mad instantly. Yeah. And I pull off the side of the road going, what in the world's going on here? And about the time I left the side of the road, here come, and I still remember them old Triumph TR7s, the shape of things to come. Yeah. I think you had a Subaru, it kind of looked like one of them at one time. Yeah. But there was one of them and a 55 Chevrolet come across a hump right there, and the 55 Chevrolet was in my lane. And they was probably running 90 mile an hour. Well, when my car started quitting, I'd have probably been running 70 mile an hour when I topped that hill. Yeah. Now, that'd have been a whopper of a crash, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah.
And it would have been just right there. Yeah. Okay, I wasn't a saved man.
No. And you didn't look at that as the hand of God at the time.
Well, I'll tell you what. When they went by and I hit the key on that little car and it fired up and didn't miss a lick, I went, that was plumb weird, wasn't it? And looking back, I go, I believe God did that. Yeah. I mean, I'm running along with a car that I took care of. I'm a car buff, in case you don't know it. You know it now. Yeah. I always have been, just like old cars. I was any kind of old hot rod or motorcycle car or anything. I usually try to keep them running good. Don't always look the best, but I try to keep them where I get them to go. Yeah. That's the way I was then. Car run like a top. It quit. 10 seconds. I coast off the side of the road and I'm mad and fussing. Reach up to the start in that car. Them two cars come across there racing side by side, a little 2-lane road. right down there next to Tri-City Christian School, if you know where that's at. Over at Hump right there.
You probably blame that on the vapor lock at the time.
I hit the key and it fired back up.
Yeah.
Uh, and I'll be honest with you, I believe the fuel pump was going out.
Yeah.
But I drove it another week or two before it acted up again. Why? I don't know. Because the fuel pump went out after that, and that's the way it would do.
So for anybody watching this that says,
But see
that could happen to anybody. It had nothing to do with Christianity. Yeah, back to what we say, Mingo. Yeah, things like this happen all the time to Christians and to non-Christians, and we don't know. It's hard to put our finger on. Is God controlling every little thing that's going on? He's controlling a lot more than we realize. And I think you, I think me, I think that a lot of people have been spared their physical life before they were saved.
Yeah.
Because God had work for them to do later on. And I do think, though, at some point he'll say, I've tried my best to get your attention.
Yeah.
I've tried my best to get your attention, and I got somebody else that'll do it.
Oh, yeah.
I think that actually happens sometimes.
Yeah.